As a candidate, Donald Trump made headlines with some polarizing foreign policy positions, such as warming up to Russia while questioning support for NATO. Now, as president, the question remains, just what will he put into practice? To discuss these issues and more, we're joined again by CBS News foreign affairs correspondent Margaret Brennan, who's at the White House, and by Jeffrey Goldberg, editor-in-chief for The Atlantic, who's here with us on the National Mall. Good morning to you both. Margaret, let me start with you. What are the three biggest foreign policy challenges facing this new administration?
Only three, Anthony. If I had to whittle it down, I would put Syria at the top of it. This has been really the war's not ending. The beating heart of extremism is emanating from there, whether it's Al Qaeda or ISIS, and that has sparked not only refugee crisis that has destabilized the Middle East, but also Europe. And I'd underscore here that it's Bashar al-Assad's allies, Iran and Russia, who are continuing to really feed the extremism that helps to attract more of those who perhaps feel sympathetic to Al Qaeda or ISIS. And as they turned around and watched really what remains of the moderate opposition take a very severe blow with the fall of Aleppo, that really leaves the strongest fighting forces on the ground to be some of those extremist groups. After that, I'd definitely put North Korea, that fear that they could reach U.S. territory with a missile loaded with a nuclear warhead within the next 4 years, and China there in terms of the long-term strategic issues that the U.S. needs to nail, whether it's economically or potentially military conflict. China is something that is such a delicate diplomatic dance and diplomatic walk here. And what we've seen so far is Donald Trump is not a diplomat.
Jeff, there are many parts of the world that we could probably talk about, but I do want to get to Russia. This president has said he famously trusts Angela Merkel of Germany and Vladimir Putin of Russia equally. What are the implications here of U.S.-Europe relations, in terms of U.S.-Europe relations and U.S.-Russia relations?
It's nothing dramatic, except it's the upending of 70 years of American bipartisan foreign policy and national security policy. No big deal. The implications are enormous. Germany is our linchpin ally on the continent of Europe. We've been committed as a treaty ally to Germany to defend it. We've been treated. We've been allied with many countries in Europe in the NATO framework. This is a wholly new experience for us, I think. We don't know what it means to have a president who is so much committed to this is not just a reset. Every president comes in saying, oh, we're going to have better relations with Russia. This is one who's thinking of Russia as almost a kind of ally. Yeah. That's unusual.
Margaret, you mentioned China. The president is challenging the one China policy. I mean, do you think he's set himself on a collision course with China here?
Well, if you believe that Donald Trump embraces sort of a chaos theory, shake up some of the norms and see what happens, then maybe that's intentional. The challenge is diplomatically, words matter. And when this is a founding principle of U.S.-Chinese relations that could have reverberations. So this is going to be something that the U.S. is really going to have to push Rex Tillerson, if he is confirmed as the new Secretary of State, to try to massage.
Jeff, the Mideast. You've written a lot about Israel. Donald Trump thinks Jared Kushner can broker peace in the Middle East.
Why not?
His U.S. ambassador is a supporter of settlements, doesn't believe in a two-state solution. What happens here?
Right. Well, you know, the Middle East peace process is always near death. It's now just a little bit closer to death than usual. I don't necessarily think that Donald Trump is going to move the American embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. He's promised that. Every president has promised that. Every president also realizes that that is sort of an extracurricular kind of notion, like when you're actually president, and this is what one imagines he'll be learning today. There are 47 problems that you have to deal with that are not of your own making, and there are a lot of people who are going to tell him, don't make a 48th just because you feel like doing this. It's a symbolic gesture. It's not an inappropriate gesture necessarily, but it's in today's Middle East. It seems like a gasoline on the fire.
All right.
It is a complicated world that has grown even more complicated.
Jeffrey Goldberg, Margaret Brennan, thanks to you both.